Drake and Josh was, and still is, one of the best shows Nickelodeon has ever made. And one of the funniest episodes has gotta be Helicopter. This episode premiered in 2007 as one of the final episodes of Drake and Josh to ever air. An unbelievable 18 years ago. And I've been terrified of skydiving ever since. So since this episode is old enough to be considered a legal adult, I decided it was time for a rewatch to see if Drake and Josh Helicopter is still comedic gold, or if it's starting to show its age. And before we get into it, if you guys like this video, please throw us a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel a lot. Alright, let's dig in. So in one of my favorite cold opens of all time, Drake and Josh are talking, and Drake complains that Josh always follows the rules. When suddenly, a random guy named Dave pops up who's not supposed to be there. They tell him to get the hell out of the broadcast, but he isn't sure how to disconnect his webcam, so he's just there for the rest of the intro, until his presence is so distracting that Drake and Josh finally give up. Cut to the premiere where everyone's in line to see a new movie called Helicopter, and I would just like to point out that they are in fact at the premiere, the same premiere that burnt down to a crisp just one episode previously in Really Big Shrimp. Even more evidence that Really Big Shrimp was fully intended to be the finale of Drake and Josh, and is for all intents and purposes the finale of Drake and Josh, despite this episode airing after it. The premiere shouldn't be standing anymore. Drake expects Josh to give him 2 free tickets for himself and a random girl, and Drake literally calls out to this girl from across the room who he's never met before, and she just ditches her friends and potentially boyfriend to go chill with some random bro. And straight up, Drake gets more ass than a toilet seat. I get being a popular guy, but what is he, Justin Bieber? Josh tells Drake no free tickets, so he gets in line to buy some instead. And of course, some pretty girls let him cut in front of them for no reason. He ends up being the lucky winner of 2 free tickets to the film and a free helicopter ride that ends in a skydiving expedition. And this shit pissed me off, and let me tell you why. Drake just asked a random girl out on a date very loudly and publicly in front of everyone at the premiere. Why would these girls let him cut in front of them? Are they trying to impress him or something? He's already spoken for tonight, so why would they want to impress him? The intro song starts to play, and I honestly can't believe how many times I've laughed already before the intro has even finished. That's how you know it's an absolutely fantastic show. Cut to Drake making out with the random blue shirt girl from the premiere as Josh sits there next to them. She asks Drake if he's really going to go up in the helicopter, and he says, "Yeah, I'm not afraid," even though 1 in 5 people never make it to the ground. This is a fact I have never forgotten from this show, ever. It stuck with me for years, and I'll be mumbling it to myself as I breathe my last senile breath one day. But Drake and Josh's parents overhear him talking about skydiving, and they say, "No way, you suicidal freak, absolutely not." Drake throws a hissy fit and storms off to his room, and the random girl just lingers around until Drake and Josh's parents tell her to leave, which is funny as hell. I really wonder how long she would have just fucking sat there if no one asked her to leave. The next scene I absolutely hate and despise, and I can only forgive this episode because every other part is so good. Drake's mom is boiling used underpants because Walter has started buying used underpants to save money, and she thinks it's gross. She's right, it is gross, and they seem to be able to comfortably afford a large house in San Diego, constant vacations. So why, Walter? Why? Does he maybe have a used underwear fetish? In that case, someone give Walter my number. I could hook him up with some skid marks. Josh enters the kitchen, and Mom says, "Oh, I thought you were at the water park with Drake." Josh tries to play it cool and cover for Drake, but he is very unconvincing. He leaves saying he needs to get to the water park because he forgot all about it, and Mom sighs and follows him out. Then it all goes wrong. Walter enters the kitchen, humming to himself, and sees the pot on the stove. Of course, he decides to go check it out. Bro literally just ate He had a full plate of food he was bringing to the kitchen to put in the sink. He didn't have to do this. He should be full. He doesn't have to try the soup. He leans in and sniffs it. It's shit water. You're telling me it took a whiff of that and it smelled good? So of course, he uses a spoon, which I might have to point out has holes in it. So I don't know how it held any liquid, but he uses a spoon and takes a sip and then goddamn likes it. The water has to be really fucking dark for him to not see that there's underwear in that pot. It has to be dark brown poopy water, and he likes the poopy soup water, so he keeps drinking it until he realizes what it actually is when he spoons up a pair of undies. He falls over from presumably death by poison, and that's where that ends. Thank God. And then the next part, iconic. Drake is getting his skydiving lesson, and the acronym is SPLAT. Squat, pray, leap, and touchdown. I love it. Never forgot it in all of my years. Ever since I first saw this premiere, I never forgot the acronym SPLAT. But I never realized that they never actually teach Drake how to use a parachute in this class. They never go over its actual functions or safety protocols if something goes wrong. It's a pretty bad class as far as classes go. Josh shows up and tells Drake not to do it and says he'll be responsible if Drake gets hurt since he didn't rat him out to mom. Drake agrees not to jump out of the helicopter, but says mom and dad never said he couldn't ride in it. Josh says no, but then when he's invited to come, he changes his mind right away. Surprise, surprise. Cut to the helicopter 7,000 feet in the sky where the heart of the episode takes place. Josh sees a fancy red-breasted ass bird that he calls intelligent, and then it dies right away after being demolished by the helicopter. Josh notices Drake putting on the parachute to jump, and then Drake and Josh fight over the parachute, and the pilot Vince gets up to break it up, and he accidentally gets knocked out unconscious during the struggle. They instantly panic as the only one who knows how to operate the helicopter is knocked out cold. They slap him to wake him up, and he asks what happened. Josh explains, "You got hit in the head and knocked out with the fire extinguisher." And as he explains, he accidentally deploys the fire extinguisher and sprays the pilot instructor off of the helicopter. Drake says, "Do you know what you just did?" And Josh says, "I extinguished our pilot." Drake responds, "No, he had the parachute. You extinguished us." The situation is now truly dire. With no pilot aboard and neither one of them knowing how to operate a helicopter, they start to really panic. They try fiddling with the radio, but they can't really figure it out, so they decide the best move is for Drake to turn off autopilot since he's played some helicopter video game before and attempt to land. As soon as they turn off autopilot, the helicopter starts plummeting to the ground. Death seems imminent, and the boys scream in terror, but luckily Drake finds the autopilot switch and re-engages the autopilot, and the helicopter stabilizes again. A call comes in over the radio, and Drake and Josh scream that they need help. Over the radio, the man says, "Okay, where are you?" And without missing a beat, Drake responds, "In the helicopter." I mean, I would have said the same thing. Come on. He asks them to describe their location, and Drake goes to the ledge to take a closer look, pulling the radio out of its socket in the process. It plummets down out of the helicopter, never to be seen again. They freak out, and suddenly they realize Josh has a cell phone. Drake doesn't want to call mom and dad because he says he'll be grounded for going skydiving, but Josh points out that he shouldn't worry about being grounded when they're about to become part of the ground. Drake suggests calling 911 instead, and Josh says, "Oh yeah, let's call the fire department. Something tells me they don't have a 7,000-foot ladder." As if their mom and dad will? They decide to call their home phone, and Meghan is on the other line with her friend and puts her on hold and picks up. Josh frantically tells her they're in a helicopter with no pilot about to die. Meghan says she's busy talking to her friend on the other line about stickers and says to call back in half an hour. She nonchalantly disconnects the call, leaving Josh stunned. She goes back back to discussing various types of stickers with her friend. They talk about puffy stickers and even stickers that glow underwater. And excuse me, what? Drake yells at Josh for being hung up on, and Josh says, please, these could be our last moments together. I don't want it to be stressful. I like the implication that Drake yelling is the part that's stressful, not the helicopter crashing. Suddenly, the helicopter starts beeping, and when they go over and check the tank, it says E. Josh says maybe E means extra fuel, and I still think about this line all of the time. Drake says, no man, we're out of fuel. We're fucking toast. And Josh starts praying and then sings a line from the 80s song Don't Dream It's Over for some reason. But they decide not to give up and accept death just yet. They desperately start to search around for a parachute, but they can only find one. Drake says, okay, I'll take it and bring back some help. Classic. Josh says to grab him and they'll jump together, but Drake gets scared and Josh has to actually talk him into jumping. Josh latches himself to Drake and they jump out. Josh luckily also knows how to operate this parachute somehow, even though he didn't take the class with Drake, and as they hang there, falling to the surface of the earth, Drake says, you're touching my butt. Priorities, Drake. And he narrowly escaped death, but his first concern is his personal bubble regarding his cheeks. Come on now, let me touch those cheeks. They get home soaking wet and they're super pissed at Meghan for hanging up on them. They say they had to swim 2 miles until they were rescued by a tuna boat, and her only response is, did you bring me some tuna? And I gotta say, sure, Meghan is a jerk, but at the same time, let's not kid ourselves. Realistically, if Meghan had answered that phone call and tried to help, would Drake and Josh's fate have been any different? What the hell could they have done to get them out of that helicopter? The parents show up before Drake and Josh can get Meghan, and they ask how their day was at the water park. Since they're all wet from swimming in the ocean, it seems like they actually got away with their lie. And then suddenly, the doorbell rings. It's Vince, the pilot, and as soon as he sees Josh, he says, you blasted me out of my own helicopter. He then gives Walter a bill and tells him they owe $400,000 for a new helicopter. The boys then preemptively ground themselves for 2 weeks, representing a penalty of only being grounded 1 day for every $28,000 in damages they caused. And this is even more funny when you realize Walter was buying used underwear to try to save money at the beginning of the episode. The episode ends and the after credits bonus scene is Drake and Josh using the helicopter radio to desperately try asking for help, and what is clearly a very young little kid answers the mic. That's really funny and honestly should have been in the episode. So as the credits start to roll and everything is said and done, is Drake and Josh helicopter still good? Let's get straight to the point. It doesn't matter if it's been 18 minutes since I first seen this episode or 18 years. It is still just as funny and memorable as it was when it first premiered those 18 years ago. The helicopter episode manages to avoid feeling aged or outdated in nearly any way. The plot of getting stuck in a helicopter without a pilot is something that would be pure insanity no matter what decade it's released in. And the episode somehow manages to balance Drake and Josh's fear of death with the comedy of the episode very well. It's almost as if every joke they crack is out of stress or existential dread, and I absolutely love that. And if I'm being straight up, I think this episode is a great example of what makes Drake and Josh work so well even all these years later, and that's the two boys themselves. Some of the best episodes of Drake and Josh are the two boys getting stranded somewhere alone with each other. The treehouse episode, the episode where they're stranded on the side of the road, and of course, helicopter. The energy the boys have with each other is unmatched, and whether it's 2007 or 2025, Drake and Josh helicopter still got me to crack up as if it was the first time I've ever seen it. I definitely recommend you give this one a rewatch. I don't think you'll regret it. But enough of me yapping. What do you guys think? Did you love this one as a kid, and do you remember it as vividly as I do? Or did you have no taste? Let me know and let's kick it in the comments. If you're stuck around this long, why not check out my other videos and subscribe? It would mean the world to me and really help out. Also, I want to give a huge crazy shout out to Kendyl OK, the channel member. Pretty sure it's their 2nd month of being a member, and that deserves some praise. What an amazing, great job you're doing, Kendyl. Thank you so much. All right, thanks for listening.